Hi chums, right. I'm going to continue with the graveyard theme. But I thought of something while I was doing that last one there, you know. Oh no, what was that last one? That was number two. Number two was. I just want to write this down. I forgot to write down the last measurement. Right, so this one here, what have we got here? We've got number 43, 3 average Cara. And have we got it here too? Yeah, there it is. 43, 3 average Cara, and they're mine. So we'll see how these do. I don't think they'll do very well because they were kind of neglected as well. But, right, so funerals. My grandmother's family are from Carrickfergus in County Antrim, outside Belfast. And her family were builders, and very talented, very talented builders. Each of them did a different type of building job. So the family ended up building houses as a family. So they had a draftsman and joiner and bricklayer, plumber, electrician, carpenter. They all did jobs that meant they could build a house between them, and that's what they did. They built a whole lot of the houses in Carrickfergus. But my uncle Michael, after the war, Second World War, he was in London and he was looking for work, and he got work in Selfridge's big store. It's a famous store in Oxford Street in London, and he built a staircase, and all he asked for was one labourer to help him, and he built this big sweeping staircase that has become part of Selfridge's history. And I was over in London about 10 years ago at work at a conference, and I was at about a few hours to kill, and coming back to the airport, I said to the taxi man, I was over with another lady I was working with, and I said, look, leave us here in Oxford Street with a couple of hours to kill. And I was walking up and down Oxford Street. She went off shopping. I just walked about looking at things. I had spotted Selfridges, and I went in and I said to him, look, I'm told that there's a famous staircase here that was built by a man called Michael McKeown from Carrickfergus. She went, and the girl went, hold on a minute, I'll get. He says, I know about this, it was a Belfast man. And I said, well, you might say that, but he was actually from Carrickfergus. So she went and got one of the managers, and he said to me, she said to me, yes, that's a pretty famous part of our history. And every single person who goes to Selfridges, when they're getting a tour of the building, they're told about this staircase and the man who built it with a labourer by himself, and didn't need any other help. He did it all alone, basically, and no big machines, nothing. He built it by hand. And he said, would you like to see it? And I said, I would, surely. How far is it away? He said, it'll take us 20 minutes to get there. It's a huge store, Selfridges. And I looked at my watch, and I had to meet Fiona in 5 minutes. The girl was over with. I had to meet her to go to the airport, so I couldn't go to see it. So someday I'll get back over it. But if you're ever in Selfridges in London and you hear about the famous staircase, it was my great uncle Michael who built that. But he was also one of the most beautiful people you would ever meet. He never got fussed about things. He was very calm, quiet, reserved, and knowledgeable. And he would help you with things, but he would never put you down. He would never patronise you. He was just a great man. And I was watching, he showed me how to fillet a fish, and I've never filleted a fish any way since. And I was watching a documentary some time ago, and this guy said, this is the way you fillet a fish. If you've been doing it any other way, you've been doing it wrong. And he showed me the way my uncle Michael taught me to do it. So I was so thrilled that I learnt this when I was 7 years old. And he was the first man who gave me a knife. When I was about 7 or about 8, I suppose, he gave me a knife, his own knife, a pocket knife. I think I showed you that one time, a little silver one about that size that I still have. And he was a beautiful, beautiful man. Everybody loved Uncle Michael. But Uncle Michael died, as people do. But as I say, they had a big family. I think there was 13 plus 3 cousins joined in at the end because their parents got killed in an accident in England. So they came home and they just joined in with their aunts and uncles. Actually, they were nephews raised as brothers, and they joined in at the end of the family and were raised with them. So you could say 16 of them, you know. But came to Michael's funeral, and we were taking Michael down to the chapel to for the funeral mass, and myself and my cousin Joe were carrying the coffin in the first lift, I think it was, or the second lift. And then we came out from under the coffin and turned round to go back into the procession, basically. And we both at the same time spotted the like 11 old brothers and sisters walking behind the coffin. And what did Joe do? Joe turned to me and said to me, if I was you, I wouldn't be in any rush home. And I started to giggle. And you know, when you start giggling at a funeral, you're bait, you know. And that's my memory of Uncle Michael's funeral, trying not to laugh, you know. But we had a better, this is going to be crap, we had a better one. My Uncle Walter died. Another brother. So, traditionally, some people like to have their remains taken up to the chapel the night before their funeral, and then they spend the night in the chapel, basically alone. And that's a lot of people do that. They request it, or it's just done by tradition. And Walter, by tradition, we brought him to the chapel. We didn't tell the priest, right? Because we knew that the priest knew he was going to be burying Walter the next day, and we knew that the priest knew that there's a good chance Walter would be brought to the chapel the night before. So up we go to the chapel with Walter, and in we go, carrying Walter into the chapel, and the priest go, what are you doing, what are you doing? And somebody said, I don't know who it was, somebody said, well, we're bringing Walter in for resting overnight. He went, but you can't leave him here, I have a wedding in the morning. And he went, what? You can't leave him here for a wedding? You can't have people coming to a wedding and a coffin sitting in front of them. And we said, well, what are we going to do? And he said, put him in the confession box. So we went over to the confession box, opened it up, and we stood Walter inside a confession box. And then the next morning, after the wedding, we went up to get Walter out of the confession box and went on with the funeral. So Walter spent his last night standing up. But then after that, we got to the burial part. Now, at this stage, after Walter had died, there had been quite a few of them dying, and the grave was getting kind of full at this stage, you know. And it's tradition, I don't know how many people are screaming up, it's tradition that when a grave's getting full, that they take well, in the old days they used a hammer, but they take the bucket of a digger now, and they just squash the graves, squash the coffins underneath to make more room. But they didn't have a digger up there, but they had another way of doing it. And I'll tell you what it is in a minute. So, as I say, Walter's funeral was over. We went out to the graveyard, and then they lowered Walter's coffin into the grave. And I was standing behind the headstone with my cousin Bobby. And I looked down, and in front of me there was a plastic bag, a bin liner, with all sort of like sticks in it, you know. And I gave it a nudge in my toe, and I said, Bobby, what's that there? He went, that's your Uncle Hubert. So the gravedigger had taken Hubert's bones out of the grave and put them in a bin liner, and then throw them back in again on top of the coffin. So there are strange things happen at funerals, you know, but I enjoyed that. But the thing about it is, the two boys that were involved, Michael and Walter, Hubert and Walter would both have laughed their backsides off if it had been anybody else, you know. So I'm sure they took it in good faith. Well, there wasn't really much they could do about it, was there? So that's that. But funerals are interesting things, and I tell you what, I would love to be an undertaker. And it's because undertakers have to do a job in 3 days, well over here 3 days, and they have to do it perfectly, and it has to be done right. And I would love that. That would give me great satisfaction to do short-term goals that can be achieved and achieved well. I would enjoy that, you know. So funny enough, I was talking to a friend. I just met him. Actually, our wives were friends, and then we met through that. And we were sitting down, and he turned to me and he said to me, so, you're a teacher? And I said, yeah. He said, what would you really want to have been? And I went, an undertaker. And he looked at me, and his mouth opened. He went, what? And I said, I know it sounds kind of strange, but I'd love to be an undertaker. He went, so would I. He was a joiner and picture framer. So we had a great night then, talking about undertakers and what we would do. And what happened? About 20 years later, didn't an opportunity come up near him to buy an undertaker's business? And he came to me, he asked me, would you be interested? And I said no, because at that stage I couldn't lift or anything at that stage, you know, so I'd have been a useless undertaker, you know. So I could have organised it, but I couldn't have done any of the heavy work, you know, and it is heavy work. So that's that. But so if you're If you're ever in an Irish chapel at night, just be careful if you open the confession box that there's nobody standing in it. So that's that. So look at that there. This is now confirming the fact that these are shite, for want of a cruder expression. I'm going to weigh them because I said I would weigh everything, and I'm going to because that's the deal. But those are pretty pathetic. So there you are. Funny enough, when I was up in Donegal one time, my mother's family are divers from Donegal and Bunbeg, and went to Bunbeg, and there's a wee graveyard down on the beach there. And I said to him, look, you're looking for a guy called Charles Diver, to my children, to see can you find your great grandfather. And within minutes Una went, Daddy, I've found him. And Dermot went, so have I. This is another grave, and Rosemary shouted, I've got 3 of them here. And there were about 8 or 9 Charles Divers buried in that graveyard. So I never found out which one was my grandfather, you know. Diver spelt D-I-V-E-R here, diver. So, where are we at now? This is so awful sadly what to weigh these, but I have to weigh them in order to get a true honest picture of what happened last year. So I'm going to weigh them, whether I like it or not. But I think of another wee story to tell you. I'm starting to run out of stories. Right, here we are. Hello. Lots of kilos. Put it in pounds, it would look better. I haven't even got a quarter of a pound. 0.6 of a pound, what's that about? 0.7 of a kilo? No, it's not 0.7, 0.6, about 0.4 of a kilo is it? Like 0.29, so that's pretty bad. So, what was it, point what? Oh shit, oh fuck, I'll do it later on. Okay, so there you are folks, pretty poor, but half a pound. So that's no good. That's where it doesn't make sense doing this, because you're getting such bad results. But I told you at the time, I'll show you everything that goes right and goes wrong. I'm not going to start showing you all the good stuff, because that's totally unrealistic of me. Because then you go out and you try the things that I do and they don't work, and you think, oh, I'm no good, I can't do this, and he always gets it right, that baking soda bollocks, and he can't do anything wrong. Well, baking soda makes mistakes as well, makes plenty of them, and I'll show you them all. Okay, all the best now. Bye bye.